The cold mist of the northern forests hangs over the Roman frontier. The year is 180 AD, and the empire is ruled by the philosopher-emperor Marcus Aurelius. In the dense forests of Germania, the legions prepare for battle. Shields are raised, spears sharpened, and war machines are rolled into position. The clash with the Germanic tribes will be brutal, chaotic, and merciless. But the Romans are not afraid, for they are legionaries, trained, disciplined, and bound together by a system of war that has made Rome the greatest power the ancient world had ever known. Victory in war does not depend entirely upon numbers or mere courage. Only skill and discipline will ensure it. Flavius Vegetius Renatus, Epitome Rei Militaris. These words capture the true essence of the Roman legions. Skill and discipline forged them into the most effective military machine of antiquity. The origins of the Roman army. In the early days of Rome, the army was not professional. It was a duty tied to citizenship. Every man was expected to defend the city when called upon. During the 6th century BC, under King Servius Tullius, the army was reorganized. Military service was no longer based on noble birth, but on wealth. Citizens were divided into classes, depending on their ability to equip themselves with weapons and armour. The wealthiest citizens became cavalry, the equites. The next classes formed the heavy infantry, armed with spears and shields. Those with fewer resources served as light troops or technicians. Even the poorest, called the proletarii, contributed as assistants. For these men, military service was not a burden. It was a source of honour and prestige, a way to secure their place in Roman society. The first legions. From this system arose the legio, or legion. In its earliest form, a legion consisted of around 5,000 men, drawn from the citizen body. At this stage, Roman tactics were heavily influenced by the Greek phalanx. Dense formations of spearmen, shoulder to shoulder, advanced like an iron wall. But while effective on flat ground, the phalanx was rigid and struggled in Italy's rough mountainous terrain. Rome needed something more flexible. The Manipular Legion. By the early 3rd century BC, Rome abandoned the phalanx. In its place emerged the manipular system. The legion was now divided into smaller tactical units called maniples, each made up of 2 centuries. This gave the army flexibility and the ability to adapt to different terrains and enemies. Young recruits, the hastati, formed the first line. Behind them stood the principes, more experienced soldiers. And in the rear, the triarii, veterans armed with long spears, held in reserve for the most desperate moments of battle. This 3-line system gave Rome a decisive advantage during its wars against the Samnites, the Etruscans, and eventually Carthage. The Marian Reforms, 107 BC. By the late 2nd century BC, Rome faced new challenges. Wars were fought further from Italy, demanding permanent armies. The old citizen militia was no longer enough. In 107 BC, the consul Gaius Marius introduced a radical reform. He opened the legions to the poorest citizens, men without property, known as the proletarii. For the first time, Rome had a professional army. These soldiers served for long terms, sometimes up to 20 years. They were equipped by the state, not by their own wealth. In return, they expected land, money, and rewards once their service ended. This reform gave Rome a powerful standing army, but it also changed its politics forever. Now, soldiers were loyal not to the Senate or the Republic, but to their generals, the men who promised them land and wealth. This personal loyalty would pave the way for civil wars and the fall of the Republic. The Imperial Legion. With Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, the legions entered a new era. Augustus reduced the number of soldiers and established permanent units stationed along the empire's frontiers. By the early empire, Rome maintained around 150,000 legionaries, organized into roughly 25 to 30 legions. Each legion had about 5,000 men, divided into 10 cohorts and 60 centuries. They were commanded by professional officers, carefully chosen for their loyalty to the emperor. Legions were no longer just military units. They became symbols of Rome's power. Each carried its own number and honorary name. Legio duodetim fulminata, Legio tridetim gemina, Legio septem claudia. They built roads, forts, and aqueducts, spreading Roman culture across Europe, Africa, and Asia. Roman war machines. The legions were not only soldiers with swords and shields, they also mastered engineering and siege warfare. Their arsenal included the ballista, a giant crossbow that launched stones or bolts, the onager, a powerful catapult that hurled massive rocks, and the scorpio, a deadly machine that shot arrows more than 300 meters. In sieges, they used mobile towers, battering rams, and covered structures to approach enemy walls. This combination of discipline, tactics, and technology made the Roman army nearly unstoppable. The Roman legions were more than armies. They were the backbone of an empire, the key to Rome's expansion, and the reason why a single city on the Tiber River came to dominate the Mediterranean world. From citizen militias to professional standing forces, the legions evolved constantly. They were not just warriors, but also builders, engineers, and agents of Romanization. Without the legions, there would be no Roman Empire. Their discipline, organization, and sheer determination shaped the ancient world and left a legacy that still inspires military thought to this day.